I've actually started doing that. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I have been right about, I don't think I've been wrong about something yet, if I'm being honest. When I listen to my first gut reaction, actually remember that gut reaction, like internalize it, understand that that gut reaction was like yes, no, or like this is weird, and then track that situation for until it comes to an outcome, and then remember that outcome and then compare it to my first gut feeling. My gut feeling's always right. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Bree Speaks podcast. I am your host, Bree Speaks, and today we are talking about plausible deniability. Now, I know that sounds like a boring topic, but it's not. Plausible deniability is the root of so many things. Okay, let's just start with, just hang on. What is plausible deniability? So plausible deniability is a tactic to deny, right, responsibility or knowledge of an action by creating circumstances where such a denial is believable, often by avoiding direct evidence. It is frequently used by high-ranking officials, spies, or political figures to distance themselves from the negative consequences of a subordinate's action or to test a controversial idea without fully committing. Like, that was a whole lot, but I love talking about plausible deniability because it is such I feel like a misconstrued topic, or like a topic that no one talks about, but it is so important to how everything, especially in the government, functions. So, okay, but it's not all, okay, it's mostly bad, but it is not all bad. So I want to start off with like, where are positives of plausible deniability? And really the only positive slash, even then, it's still half positive, half not positive. But the positive example is flirting, and that is where you use it the most. So what is flirting but a bunch of plausible deniability? If you see someone and you like them, and you're like, I just want, like, you just like, you kind of like bat your eyes at them if you're a girl, or like, you might smile at them if you're a guy. And it's just, you do things that, if they don't like you, you can always say, I wasn't flirting. I was just, looking in your direction. Or I was smiling because I was thinking about what I was going to eat for dinner tonight. Like, there is that plausible deniability. But when you're flirting, if they give you a signal back that they're into you, you do a little something extra of like, you might go up and say hello, and then they say hello back. And then, it's like, oh, that wasn't flirting. If you get rejected, it was just like, oh, I just wanted to say hi. Or like, oh, can I buy you a drink? You just keep doing something small until each thing that you do being completely deniable. There's always plausible deniability until you're at a point where there is no longer the ability to deny that you're flirting, or there's no longer the ability to deny that you are showing interest in this person. But by the time you get there, hopefully, it's obvious that it's a mutually agreed upon interaction at that point. So that is like positive plausible deniability is flirting. It's also a reason why a lot of people, especially in the like neurodivergent community, they don't really understand flirting, because it's inherently indirect, inherently like not it's like not direct. It's like, I'm not coming up to people and saying, I like you, can we go out? It's like, hey, what's going on with you? Like, there is that plausible deniability. So a lot of people who are neurodivergent and can't pick up on like body language or social cues, they're like, what? They were flirting with me? I had no idea. And so that's where it's like kind of tricky. But in general, it's a fun way to use plausible deniability is flirting. All right. But now, what about every freaking thing else? Let's talk about it. How is plausible deniability weaponized in our everyday lives, specifically when it comes to the systems of separation that I talk about so often. Racism, capitalism, sexism, I don't know, just law. Like, so, okay, the biggest one I would say, I wouldn't say biggest. Like, so one of the first ones that come to mind is in the court of law. I hate it because every time a person is, especially rich people, is called into the court of law to question them about their actions, they use plausible deniability to get away with all of their BS. If you are a good criminal, the way that you get away with your crimes is ensuring that you always have plausible deniability for anything that you do. The recent Cassie and Diddy case is a great, perfect, wonderful, terrible example of like the intersection between capitalism, sexism, I wouldn't say racism because everyone in that case was Black, but definitely capitalism and sexism. Because what Diddy did was he used his empire, right, his money, his capital, his capitalist system to move these women around, to influence these women, to mind control these women. But he did it in a way where there was a relationship between these women and himself. So it wasn't a strictly employer-employee relationship. So he had the plausible deniability, the ability to deny that he was doing this as a boss, and that he had the ability to say that these women were engaging in a voluntary sexual relationship with him. So that's like one way he used it, using his capital. But then the other way is obviously through just like just like the way that men use it all the time. It's like, oh, she wanted it. Oh, this was something that she asked for. He ensured that Cassie and the other women who were involved always were a part of the quote unquote the freak offs, or like they were the one. He made sure they were the ones who set it up, or he made sure to ask them if they wanted to do it, so that later on he had plausible deniability to say like, no, these women wanted to be a part of this, even though they did not want to be a part of it. But he would, he would ignore their body language. He would ignore their words, or like not their, even their words. Because there were times where Cassie and others would be like, I don't want to do this, but I'll do it to make you happy, or like, I don't want to do this. Can we do something else? And then he'll be like, oh man, that makes me really super duper extra sad. But then they'll be like, okay, I don't want you to be sad, so sure, we can do it. Like, he would do things to make it seem like it was their idea, so that later on he had plausible deniability. And the same thing happens every day with racism. And racism is the one that I feel like it happens the most, and it's happened the most throughout history. Whenever they codify things into law, like the government, they will make laws that they have. I know y'all gonna get sick of hearing this. They have the plausible deniability to deny that the law that they made was racist. The first one that I think about is like, I don't know, the credit system. They made the credit system to be able to box out people Black people specifically, from getting loans in order to buy houses to create generational wealth and upward mobility. But they set up the system to say like, oh, if you want to get loans from the bank, we need to have proof. Oh, my dog wants something from me. 1 second. So they'll make things like the credit system, where they say the credit system is not racist. We're not doing it for racism. We're doing it because if you are an upstanding citizen, we want to know that you have the ability to pay back your loans. So we want to be able to track how much you've paid back your loans. While Black people everywhere are screaming, having to have a recommendation to get a loan, or having to have someone who can, back your credit, is racist, because we're just coming out of like sharecropping and we don't have anyone who can do that for us. So it'll make it more difficult for Black people in general to get loans. But they sit that as, no, it's not racist. It's just, just a logical law. Like, what's the problem? Or, HOAs, of course, were created to keep Black people out of specific neighborhoods. They put HOA fees, and they put, even in some HOA clauses, an HOA is a homeowners association. For those who don't know, it's when you move into a neighborhood that has a homeowners association, it's like a small governing body over that neighborhood that says, if you live in this neighborhood, you have to, have your lawn cut a certain way. You can't have certain signs. You can't, it's a governing body to keep the neighborhood looking a certain way, which is racist in and of itself, because Black culture is unique. Black culture is like, that's like, I would even say stand out. Like, as a culture, we as a people, we never want to look like anyone else. We always want to be like ourselves. We want to be the standout. And white culture is we want to assimilate, we want to be the same, we want standardization. White people love standardization. And so even just like having a homeowners association that says all houses have to look the same or like, be the same colors or be the same color scheme, that is like it's I want to say it's racist because it's boxing out anyone of a different culture who has a different preference of aesthetic. And of course you're going to say like, oh, well, then you don't have to live here. And that's like, and that's fine. And that's fine. Okay, you don't. But the people who did want to live there, and if you were a Black person and you could afford it, there were HOAs who had in their clauses, like, you are not allowed to sell your house to a Black person. Like, that was in HOAs. Like, it was in contracts. Like, you cannot sell your house to a Black person. Black people cannot live in this neighborhood. And the same thing happened is happening now, even with our schools. There are schools where if you are receiving some sort of federal funding, you obviously cannot discriminate about who can and cannot get into the school. But what they've done is with this, this voucher system, this school choice voucher system that they've been creating in places like Florida and places like Texas is where it's been most popular. They are taking funding from public schools, from public charter schools, and just public schools in general, and distributing checks to parents and saying like, oh, well, instead of going to this school, you can go to whatever school you want, and here's the money to do so. And that does two things. One, it takes funding away from public schools that, are most likely attended by Black people or other people who are not white. And then two, so it's defunding public schools. And then it is giving that money to people who don't need it is the thing. Because if you are getting a voucher for $15,000 to go to any school you want to, but all the private school tuitions are $20,000 and up, who has $5,000 to send their kid to school? Rich white people. Not to say only rich white people, but like in general, the wealth in this country is in the hands of white people. So in general, it's going to be a rich, most likely white person. And so who can use those school vouchers are rich white people who don't have money to pay, like don't have extra expendable cash. They are not going to be able to use a voucher that does not cover 100% of the tuition. Like people who don't have extra money cannot, so your child is going to have to go to a public school and won't be able to utilize that voucher because you don't have the money to cover any sort of gap that tuition, that check doesn't cover. And so now you're not only taking money from public schools, you're giving money to rich people who don't need it, who probably would have been able to cover the whole $20K anyways. And then the money is going to now a private school, which already has private tuition. So it already is a very well-funded school. And that money is going into a school who is already well-resourced. And so it's just another way to funnel money. And then who owns that school but another super rich white person? So it's just like another way to funnel money from the government, from taxpayers into the hands of private rich white people and likely some sort of corporation who's attached on the back end. And that is not, but the voucher itself is not racist. There lies the probable deniability, and that is how racism thrives. Racism thrives on probable deniability, and like that is at a systemic level, a government level, but also at like a personal level. If a white person, says to a Black person, who's like straightened their hair for the first time, and they usually wear their hair curly or an afro, and they never say anything about their hair, but the day they straighten, it's just like, oh, wow, I really love your hair today. It looks really good. It's just like, again, they probably weren't, I wouldn't say probably, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, because a lot of white people don't know that they're racist. They probably weren't being racist on purpose, but they don't understand that their inherent bias to straight hair is a racist thought. That is an anti-Black thought. Like the fact that you think that you never said my hair looked good before, but now that it's straightened, you think it looks beautiful. That's a racist thought. But something even more, like, I don't know, something more insidious. I'm trying to think of a better example of white people just doing. Okay, I was listening to a story of a a TikTok woman who was like, she was like in the line at a gas station or something, and a white man, she said, with a Dallas Cowboy hat, walked up behind her, and then she was like a little close, and so she stepped forward some, and then he stepped forward some, and she stepped forward some, and then he stepped forward some, and she ended up turning around and calling him an NIGGR, which is hilarious because he was a white man and she was a Black woman. But it's just like stuff like that, those small microaggressions from the white community towards like Black people or people of color in general is so, like, those are the moments of plausible deniability of like, oh, I wasn't being racist. Or I was listening to another creator who was talking about how she was behind a white woman in line. It was a black woman, and she was trying to go, like, the white woman was, like, walking really slow, and then she, like, stopped, and there was, like, nothing in front of her, so she ended up, like, kind of squeezing around her. She said, "Excuse me," at first, like, "Excuse me," like, can, like, try to make it a polite situation, and then the white woman turned around, saw it was a black woman, and then got, caught attitude for, no reason at all other than racism. And so the black woman tried to go, like, ended up going around her. She said she didn't touch her, like, not at all. But the long story short of it is this white woman ended up, like, following her all around the grocery store and, like, making a big deal and, like, having the manager call the police and say that the black woman had assaulted her and all this other stuff. And the black woman ended up knowing the police officer who came to the scene. And then the police officer was like, "Oh, I know you. You gave, like, a talk at my church and you were wonderful. Sorry this is happening. Have a good day." He looked at the Karen, is what we're gonna call her, and saw she was, like, just erratic, just emotionally unstable, just out of control. And she was just doing way too much. And it's like, good thing this black woman knew this cop, because, had she not had that, her reputation precede her positively, it could have been a different situation. But anyways, that situation is just like, she all that time, she was doing all these things, but she never said, you nigger, or you, like, she never, white people, because they never say out loud something extremely racist. Honestly, even when they do, they still aren't reprimanded or punished for it. But that's an aside. But because she never said anything that explicitly stated that this was coming from racism, like, there was no way, we, again, it's like, we know as a black people, and even, even others, like, when there's no other reason this person is being so evil and mean and bigoted other than racism, even if they don't say it out loud. But because they don't say it out loud, there is always plausible deniability. And that is the bedrock of most racism in America, is like, I didn't say it out loud, or I didn't do anything so covert that there is any reason there's nothing of note here, nothing to worry about, nothing to see, folks. And it's just, I don't know how to, okay, well, I do. I do. I was gonna say, I don't know how to address that and how to fix that, because that is how racism thrives. It's plausible deniability, but I do. The solution is, for people, not everyone's, this is not gonna be, the perfect solution for everyone, but it is, for people to hone in and listen to their intuition. The only thing that can beat plausible deniability is intuition. Your intuition has been collecting data, collecting knowledge, collecting experiences for your entire life. And while your brain has also been collecting all of that information, it cannot translate that information to words in a moment, but it can translate it into a feeling. It can translate it into a like an essence, a spirit, into one thought. Even it can translate it all into one thought of, like, this is racist, or, like, even if it's not, this is racist, it's like, this is wrong, something is weird here. Like, even when you said, when it comes to, like, going back to flirting, it's like, your body, you're like, I think communication is like 80% body language. So while you aren't a body language expert in the way that you have studied body language, you are a body language expert in the way that you have been talking to people and communicating with them for, as long as you've been alive, and you have collected data on conversations you've had and how those conversations match with that person's body language. And so when you're in a situation and you are experiencing someone's words and their actions and your body, but something inside of you is like, this is weird, or this is wrong, or like, I don't trust that. I am just like, my mission in life is to get more and to more people, as many people as I can before I leave this earth, to get in touch with their intuition, understand when their intuition is talking to them, and then believe their intuition, believe themselves, have faith in themselves, especially women, because it's like, we know when something is wrong. Women's intuition is such a real thing. Men, I feel like they got, they have a further, you know, path to travel when it comes to their intuition and understanding it and learning it and reading it. But women have it and have developed it, especially as a tactic for survival, for understanding when men specifically are unsafe. But it applies to so many other things, racism being one of them. And so we need to understand that we have a situation and something inside of us is screaming, this is wrong, to listen to our intuition, like to believe this is wrong. Don't believe the people who are saying, no, I'm not racist. It's just, you just feel that way, or you're crazy, or you're paranoid, or you're this, that, and the third. It's like that's been my growth journey as of recently is just believing myself when I feel something. I've started to like try to track when I feel something and then track the outcome of it later to see if I was right. And when I've actually started doing that, boy, oh boy, oh boy, I have been right about, I don't think I've been wrong about something yet. If I'm being honest, like when I listen to my first gut reaction, actually remember that gut reaction, like internalize it, understand that that gut reaction was like, yes, no, or like, this is weird. And then track that situation for, until it comes to an outcome, and then remember that outcome and then compare it to my first gut feeling. My gut feeling's always right. It's always right. It's always right. So that is what I'm like, that's my challenge to the world, is learn your intuition and learn how to read it and then learn how to trust it. Although I know that's not always going to be helpful because the thing is, Black people, we know when someone is racist. Like we know. We don't even need a good intuition radar listener to know it. But I guess it's for any white people who are listening, is they need to get back in touch with your intuition, because I've been talking to a lot of white people on my TikTok, and they have been telling me like they knew that they could see when something was racist, or they could see when a system of racism has been there, and they have like tried to, essentially navigate that, or they had someone, talk them down from it. But that is my challenge to mostly to white people. It's to figure out how to get back in touch with your intuition, how to get back in touch with yourself, and learn how to read those signs and then listen to them. Listen to them. Don't let people talk you down. Don't talk yourself down. I was just doing that the other day when I was thinking about one of my girlfriends, and she's dating this man, and I'm not going to say anything specific about her situation, but she's dating this man, and my intuition is telling me this man is no good for her and it's not going to end well. And I have told her that, and she decided to move forward with the relationship as they always do, y'all. And this has happened to me on, again, it's like many occasions. Many occasions I have met these men or these women, because this has happened with a couple of my guy friends, and I was like, she doesn't seem like she's in it for you. And the same thing, it's just like people don't want to hear when they don't want to hear that the person that they're pursuing is not a good person for them. So yeah, I've told all these people all these things, and they never listen to me. And, so but I'm always right. That's the thing, but I'm always right. So I forgot where I was going with this. But yes. Oh, but so that's what I was saying, is that I would always initially, whenever I would say, hey, girlfriend, I don't think this guy is right. I'm not, can't put my finger on it, but something is telling me like this is not it. And they would say, but this, that, and the third, and this, that, and the third, and you don't know him, and this, that, and the third. I'm just like, okay, sounds good. Like, it's just, and I'll say, and I'll try to be like, okay, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, or maybe I am wrong, or like maybe something, something, something. But again, I always end up being right, and I always, get them to come back. I don't get them to come back, but they'll come back later and be like, yeah, Bree, you were right. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't want to be right. I never want to be right. That's the thing. I never want to be right about these things. But it's like, people have to learn for themselves. So I am just like, but people will learn for themselves when they start tracking their intuition to outcome ratio. On this particular girlfriend, she denied this man many a times, and she didn't want to be with him. And she was like, she said she was like afraid to be with him, and but she felt like it was someone she had dated before, and she didn't want to get back with him because she felt like, she was afraid he was going to be like not a great person again. And I was like, but she was like, essentially he reassured her, because they always do, that he was, a changed person. He's going to be better this time. And so she was like, yeah, I don't want my mind. She felt like her fear was her mind to get in the way of like her heart, essentially. But I told her, I was like, I really think it's the opposite. I think your fear is your intuition telling you something is not right here and I shouldn't do this. But I think that he has talked to your mind and has quelled your fear, quelled your intuition, hushed this thing inside of you telling you no, screaming at you, no, don't do this. And now you've logicked your way into saying this is a good idea. So, that's is a still ongoing situation. And honestly, these things usually take literal years. And so I don't think if it does work out, great. But if it doesn't work out, I'll circle back and let y'all know. But it won't be it'll probably be at least a couple of years, maybe, maybe even more than that. But um, I'm just like, I just wish women would listen to their intuition more. And that is how we get through plausible deniability. That is how we avoid getting in bad situations where the perpetrator will use plausible deniability to their advantage, they'll weaponize plausible deniability to get away with whatever hurt, harm, or crime that they were trying to get away with. Yeah, that was a shorter episode today, but I think that is all I've got is what is plausible deniability? It is the ability to do hurt, harm, or flirt but deny it later. How is it weaponized? It's weaponized. The biggest one I can think of is in racism, but also in sexism with men in their assault cases, and they say, "Oh, I didn't know," or "Oh, I thought she wanted it," or whatever it is. Or like even like in the corporate situation when they discriminate against women, it's like, "Oh, I wasn't trying to only hire men. I just, they were the more qualified candidate." Like just all this crap. So that's how it's weaponized. And then how you beat it is you listen to your intuition and you don't question it. Like you don't question your intuition. If you feel like the answer is no or like this is wrong, don't question it. Don't question it. Run like hell. Get the hell out of there, and move forward with your life in some other way, and you'll be better for it. I promise. So this has been Bree Speaks. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.